Welcome to the Gravel Lot, the place where bikes are for everyone.
The Gravel Lot podcast is presented by Be Free Ride Bikes Apparel, providing a fully customized cycling apparel experience to provide you and your team the attention to detail and personal touch that you deserve.
And also brought to you by Grimpour Brothers Coffee, offering handmade coffee roasted weekly in small batches to give you the finest quality coffee to start your day. Choose their subscription service and earn your free bag of coffee today.
And by Hand Up Gloves. Great gear, better times. Providing a wide range of apparel for bikes, snow sports, and golf in multiple designs and fits to let your personality shine.
Our goal with the Gravel Lot is to inspire cyclists of all stripes to ride bikes, share their story, and have fun. We love all bikes and anyone who wants to ride them. So no matter where you sit on the spectrum of bikes, we'll always have a place for you in the Gravel Lot.
And now, the hosts of TGL, John Woolry and Doug McClintock.
Hello and welcome back to the Gravel Lot. I'm John, that's Doug, and we are so glad that you guys found us once again for another episode here in the Gravel Lot. So, for those of you that are new, welcome. This is the Gravel Lot. It's the place where you have the best conversations with your friends before, after. Sometimes maybe you have to change flat.
During.
Yeah. But so at the Gravel Lot, we fully believe that the only thing better than going on a ride by yourself is sharing that ride with your friends, whether they are your best friends, like the person sitting across from me now, Doug, or any of your bike community. There is nothing better than sharing a great ride with all of them and then telling stories while on that ride. So that's what our podcast is. It's all about having somebody new on the show every week where they get to tell their story. They get to share a piece of themselves, share some wisdom from their lives to you guys, and you get to feel more connected to this bike community that we all love. So whether you are an existing Pebble or a new Pebble, we're all Pebbles in the Gravel Lot. Metaphor.
Metaphor.
Yeah, we like making those here as well. Welcome. It's like, seriously, so thankful that you guys are joining us and giving us your time so you can download this thing that we made.
I forgot to press record on the
recording in progress.
Zoom, so you just got that and you can edit it out, John. Or you can just leave it in if you want.
Whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. If you like what you hear today, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Give us your support in any way that you can, whether that's just sharing us with your friends or anybody that you know in the bike community who might enjoy this story. Hit the like button, subscribe, do all that stuff. Leave your comments below if you're watching the video. Let us know what you'd like to hear. The people that you want us to talk to, all that sort of stuff. Go over to our website, visit our Etsy store, Patreon. If you want to become a Patreon supporter, that has been a massive help over the past year and a half, 2 years, as we've continued to stand up technology to make this happen. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. You're absolutely the crux of our support at this point in time. And make sure to go visit all the partners mentioned in the intro. They do amazing things. We'll give you more information on all of them, but they've been huge supporters of ours. We could not do this without them. They have been amazing, and we love having them aboard. Questions, all that stuff, we are at the Gravel Lot on almost every social platform, and you can visit the website, thegravellot.com, or you can call us if you want, 513-400-5577, and that's always fun to get your voicemails. So
somebody's been buying a lot of stuff from Sweetwater.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Sweetwater purchases where someone has like fat fingered our number, which has been pretty good. So whoever that is, I hope you are enjoying your audio equipment.
Sounds fun. Sounds like you have a cool life.
Yeah, for sure. We've done plenty of Sweetwater buying. It always confuses me because I'm like, I don't know. I think that was us.
Well, as evidenced by pressing record after I started talking. Whatever. That makes us more approachable. That makes us more likable. that makes you guys come back.
Absolutely.
Anybody can do this.
It's not actually that hard. But that being said, we've switched it up a little this week, and we're not going to necessarily talk about what John and my ride are, because we've got one of our favorite folks joining us this week. So we're going to just lean right into that and have another returning guest on this week. He may have a whole bunch of big belt buckles and stars and stripes all over a whole bunch of his kit, but we are really always impressed by the things that he does that get a little bit less of the personal spotlight and really dig into the person that we've come to know and love. He's been busy since he was last on the show. So Pebbles, please give a warm welcome to our dear friend, Jake Wells. Jake, welcome to the Gravel Lot.
Always good to be here, guys. Thanks.
We're stoked to have you back for another round of Let Us Get Completely Tangential.
but keep it under 6 hours, what we promised each other. So that's the goal. I feel like we're going to be fine.
We'll be under 6 hours. I'm going to be 5 1/4.
We're going to be good today.
At some point, we would have to take a pee break like we did last time you were actually in the studio. And that's kind of cool because you joined us in the studio, and you're one of the few out-of-town guests, like very, very far out of town, that was able to join us in the studio. You did an amazing project with the unbelievable cinematographer and friend of the show, Justin Baylog, and he created a beautiful piece of art of your experience on the bike at Unbound.
Link in the show notes.
Yeah, link in the show notes, as
Been there
always.
for a couple seasons.
Yeah. And we were lucky enough to be featured as part of that in the conversation that we had with you. But that was a pretty major thing. You came to Cincinnati, we got to hang out, you got to reveal the show and do all that stuff. So you've had a whole lot of stuff going on, but even outside of that, there's been a lot of life changes, I think, for everybody in the space over the past couple of years. And since we haven't had you on the show since prior to the
January 2020, before the world went upside down.
Yeah, like we were in a different place, all of us, at that moment in time. So we don't need to start the clock then, but lots of stuff transpired when the pandemic came along, and you're an athlete. You had just won another national championship, 2 of them, to be clear. How did you look at your career at that point in time and say, well, what am I up to? What am I going to do?
Yeah, that was a really odd time, because I think like you said, for all of us, it was just seemed super surreal of, what is happening, and how do I navigate these waters? And you're right, I am an athlete, but at the same time, I'm also a business owner. And that was another, kind of tricky egg to peel, if you will, of just like, all right, well, how do we make this continue to do what we need it to do? Right. So, I can't begin for a second to not understand how, fortunate I am to be in the place that I am with my business and with where I am as an athlete as well. It's just like, I'm not like our business was hit hard, but for a short amount of time. We were able to get back to somewhat, business as usual pretty quickly. And then, like things just hindsight, from looking back at it, like things could have gone down a couple different paths really quickly, which would have been, completely different outcome. But luckily with family stuff, like we all were able to stay healthy and physically and mentally. And to me with cycling and as an athlete, it really, as things began to be canceled and postponed and all of those things, it really gave me a sense of freedom to be able to just realize that, okay, nothing's happening this year, no events, right? So, and of course some did happen, and there were some virtual things that you could engage with if you preferred or really needing that fix. But for me, it was just this opportunity to really step away from competition completely, which I don't know when the last time I did that. It was probably after college and before I got into cycling, was when the last time I actually
post running and doing the other piece of it. Yeah.
Right. So that was actually kind of nice, just to go and ride bikes and go for hikes and go for runs and do what I wanted to do, and without really any real performance goals in mind. So, but then at the same time, it really, when things started to turn back on, and we had a full race season last year, that was really a breath of fresh air, and it was really like a lot of gratitude there of like, hey, we're back, like let's be grateful for what we have and take advantage of this, and don't take it for granted, so
Sure. So thinking back to the first couple episodes that we had you on the show, we were talking about, you were just transitioning out of your full-time pro racing career, and I think that's why that episode ended up being so long, is we were just talking through how you were internally navigating that and the struggle of going from how do I define myself as a professional athlete to what am I going to do? What does the rest of my life look like? And how do I define who Jake is? Do you feel like going through that gave you a little bit of an upper hand in terms of being flexible in this scenario? Because we've talked with a lot of athletes since the pandemic started, and I think they've all given a very similar response of, well, it gave me a chance to take the stress of being a racer off, and it's given me a chance to realize how important being a content creator is. And they all not that I'm knocking what any athlete has given us in response, but they were almost forced into that situation of, okay, now you got to figure out a way to justify your your line item on a budget for all of these businesses that are sponsoring you. Whereas you kind of already have had a chance to navigate something, maybe not to that level of complexity, but you've done something similar to where you've had to navigate some of those internal murky waters.
Yeah, you'd already kind of grabbed that gear in a different way.
Or maybe I'm completely wrong.
No, I think you're right. I think it did give me, I was in that mental place, I think already, like, hey, I didn't really like sit down and have that conversation with different partnerships and sponsors throughout the career, but I had realized that the reason that I have these relationships is not based on results. It's not based on the fact that I've won this race or got on this podium. It really has to do with character and who I am and who what I can provide for the brand, right? So as a marketing person or someone that's approachable and can speak well to the product, I think that's, to me, that gives me kind of some leeway there to say, okay, well, I can think outside the box and think outside of just like normal, like train, race, compete, and recover and repeat it. So those typical posts that you see from athletes that are just like, hey, here's the race weekend, here's what I've eaten for dinner, and here's me in the recovery boots, and then right. So I think because I've been in that place for a while, it did give me some ideas on like, okay, I can still go do these other things and document those. And we did a really fun bike packing trip that has been on my list, but just not something. It was just like the yes button to that, like, okay, go do this, because this is so, it's just like low hanging fruit, like get some bags and go do this ride. And that's as much about like with the Unbound, the XL project that Justin and I worked on together, that really same kind of thing, John. It opened my eyes to like, hey, this is the kind of stories that people are interested in, and not that people don't want to watch race athletes and see what's happening at the pointy end of things, but this is a lifestyle thing, and I think that people can relate to that in a way that's a little bit different.
So speaking about lifestyle, right? like, yes, you'd started to make that switch, and I think that's a thing that you were already in, but there had been so many years of grinding away and like doing these things and travel and all of this stuff. How was it for you kind of resetting with family? And I'm not saying that you weren't, like, you're a very family oriented person. That is a thing that is very important to you. And I know that because I know you personally. But how was it to have a year in which it's like, Jake, you can't go anywhere?
Yeah, you're unencumbered by anything.
You're not allowed to go anywhere. Like, not that your family was telling you can't go anywhere, but you're like, all my events are canceled. All these things are done. And you've got at this point 2 years ago a teenager, right? Like,
Yeah.
and things are changing in her life, and all this stuff is going on. How is that from a family perspective to suddenly have that open vista in a different way?
Again, I don't know if our dynamic is unique or not, but I think we realized probably halfway through in Colorado, we did like a 6-week kind of lockdown, so everything was kind of shut down for 6 weeks. And fortuitously or not, we had just purchased a house in Grand Junction. And so, that's about 2 hours from us, and it was in spring. So, like March, April, and, it's perfect time to be in the desert riding bikes and hanging out in warm weather and not in the mountains when it's, kind of sunny one day and
sideways wind that takes all your porch equipment, right? Just like down the street.
Yeah. It'll be snowing one day and 60 the next, right? So, so we were in this house that we were new to, but we were, so there was that element of it, like learning the house and learning this town or city that we were living in. And we're excited to be a part of the community. But you couldn't really engage with the community, so we just really had ourselves, and Mesa County was not getting hit very hard at all with COVID and all the things that were going on. But Eagle County, where we live, permanently, was. So we could kind of continue to, get outside and go explore the trails and all of that. And I remember being there, at the house watching some movies. We spent a good amount of time just catching up on good movies, and not like, I don't know, like feel good movies, more like, I don't know. We watched like Ali, we watched Malcolm X, we watched Driving Miss Daisy. Like, we watched some interesting movies that from our time, like you're on my generation, that people from my daughter's generation probably won't be exposed to. Like they may not just choose that movie off of Netflix. So because that was right around the same time as all the Black Lives Matter stuff that was going on and the protests there. So I was just trying to do whatever I could think of. It's like, hey, how can I sprinkle this in, and like and drop that into little crevices that could show up down the road. So, but I do remember sitting there thinking, like, we're probably going to look back at this as a unique opportunity, a unique time, whenever, because we're all so busy, because we're all so willing to say yes to all these things, and we have just life stuff that happens, with our schedules and everything, like, to be able to look back at this and say that was a unique period of time that we really got to connect.
Has that informed moving forward for y'all?
I think it's made our bond stronger. Yeah, for sure. Like with our daughter and with my wife, and I think we're pretty fortunate in a way that we have fostered really good communication with our daughter, and she is confident with that. So I feel like that made it even more so. Like, she's happy to chat with us about her feelings, and I think she's very mature that way to be able to clue into what she's feeling and name it, right? And I think that's not something that most folks are happy or comfortable doing.
No, that was something I was curious about when you're just hearing you talk about, is this time period going to be viewed as a dark time period for somebody, in 30 years? Or is it going to be viewed as yes, it was dark, but we found these great rays of sunshine that we, we're kind of foist into, where we were all so overcommitted. And like you said, so was that something that you guys actively talked about, early in the pandemic when, you said 6 weeks, I think you said you were shut down.
Yeah.
Like, were you having those conversations of like, look, this is an opportunity? Because at that point, I mean, maybe my perspective is a little bit different because, losing my job right at the beginning of the pandemic, I was solely focused on finding a new job at this point during these shutdowns. But like, the news is ever present, and that's my memory of the first, the first major shutdown of the pandemic. Was it just felt like the TV was on all the time, and we were getting bombarded with whatever your channel of choice is, with numbers and death totals and just stats and stats and stats.
I just rode the trainer, and today, was riding, all I did was ride the trainer and watch the news. So I did.
Right. So were you guys actively having those conversations during that kind of initial deluge of information?
Yeah, I know we definitely had a conversation or two about that exact thing of just like, hey, I think this is a unique thing. And it's again, whether it's perspective or naivete, I guess, but we have the opportunity to make the most out of a situation, right? Like that kind of defines us and as humans. And I think that you can have some choice of how you interact. You can't have much choice as to what's happening in the world, right? Like, so that's we can't control the fact that this is happening. You just have to acknowledge that, hey, this is a thing and this is happening. And so now how do we choose to interact, and I think that if you it's hard to kind of differentiate between the fear that's being pushed out to you from all those channels and what is the actual, how do you actually, what's the actual emotion that you choose to bring to the situation?
I think at least for the three of us on the call, right, we were all fortunate enough to have a life or a lifestyle or a savings or whatever that we could navigate this in a way that didn't necessarily put us in harm's way. Like, none of us were working on the front lines of healthcare. None of us
True.
we had a lot of privilege in that space to navigate that allowed us to contemplate some of this stuff. But I love that, regardless of that situation, or maybe because of that situation, y'all were able to reconnect and find another level of your relationship in that way. And I think that is making the best of what you're given in that situation, even if it does come from our respective privilege in that fashion.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for just the word acknowledge. Again, like, first off, two white guys that have a podcast, that's already cliche enough. Two middle-aged white guys that have a podcast, but we're joined by a third middle-aged white guy on our podcast. So like, first off, acknowledging is a huge thing of this, but also just acknowledging that gift of time, that gift of slowing the world down, that gift of just space, of being able to, I think we all thought it. I don't know how many people actually truly leaned into embracing that time. And, Amanda and I were going on walks every day because we were both working from home. And there were just so many little things that you could take advantage of that were just like, they were new, like almost guilty pleasures. You're like, oh, I didn't know I could do this. But you said something early when we were talking about, getting back to cyclocross, being a breath of fresh air and acknowledging the excitement of being able to be back and traveling and be back with Alpha, Groove, Subaru and all of the kids and being reconnected with all of those things. So talk to us about that, going back to shoot, like everyday life. That's just like that's like regular, UCI,
Regular Jake
like
Wells
USAC
job.
schedule.
Like, here
Yeah.
we go. Do. We're going to Cincinnati. We're going to Jingle. We're going here.
Yeah.
We're going there. Yeah. Driving all over in a van, eating burritos.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I think getting back to it was healthy. I think we needed it. I think we're all ready for that point of, I guess, semblance of normalcy, like, oh, okay, this racing's happening again, and we have a budget, and we're traveling again, and we have a team, and I'm invited to be a part of it. So yeah, that was exciting. I think it was. I admittedly did not go into the 2021 season with as much fitness as I have in the past, but that was, to be expected. It was just like rolling into it and seeing what came out of it. But for me, I was in a place where it was different than that of the riders. That was not what I was telling the riders that I was coaching or the riders that were
absolutely not. You better be ready to, take some corners and snipe some results here. Let's get busy.
Right. Yeah. Because I knew, like, for me, as defending champion for Masters race and single speed, I knew I was going to have a front row call up no matter what, right? Like, I could not race any all season and show up and be on the front row. But for those guys, it was really critical because everything had reset. Everything was at zero, except for the wonky world points that carried over, right? So other than that, like those athletes needed to come in with really good form and really trying to take advantage of those early season races. So and Adam did an amazing job as he always does. He's so his level of foresight that he has is just impressive. What he thinks of and that you didn't realize.
We always say he's got the nicest horse trailer in the biz.
Yeah, he loves
the loudest damn power washer every time.
But I think that he knew that was going to be the case, and he made sure that those athletes were ready and had every opportunity to capitalize.
So I'm curious from your perspective, from not only being an athlete but being a coach, being a mentor. Generally speaking, when going into a season, you have some calibration.
Yeah.
You have some sort of external calibration. Sure, you can look at watts per kilogram. You can look at what, your 20-minute, your hour power, or anything like that is. You can look at heart rate data. Like that's that's like one person. How, or was it not any different for a regular season in terms of lead up? Because there was no lead up. It was just like you showed up. It was almost like showing up for your first race all over again, where you're just like, I have no, who's fast? Like, who do I need to mark? Who do I need to pay attention to? Like, how did you, being in those very three unique positions, kind of approach that different, or did you approach it any different?
I think that's the typical mentality of an athlete is that, anytime you take any time off or, you aren't, lining up against competition consistently, you start to question your abilities and start to rethink your fitness level. And, am I going to be able to match where I was last year or not? And who are the fast folks going to be? And am I one of them, And, because it wasn't like I was just coming off the couch. Like I was definitely active last year.
Yeah.
I definitely had a busy schedule and did get into some good races, but I think like getting that first race out of the way was just like, oh yeah, we're going to be all right here. I think that was really the key for me. It was just like, let's, being able to train with the alpha team is helpful because I know how strong those riders are, and I know how they stack up. So I know that if I can keep them in sight, then I'm doing okay. So
Yeah, that is definitely like a good measuring stick that not everybody has. Like, I appreciate that you've got that, and that is definitely an advantage. You're like, I know these kids are fast on this level, and I know how they. Yeah, I mean, I like they would destroy me in a matter of mere moments. That's fine. But you know that you can hang up to a point with them. And I think that's helpful. So as you adjust that thing, like the season went and you guys, like we got to see you in Cincinnati and you had an awesome time there and all of that. How on par, you know, how as I don't
Great. Are you gonna ask him to grade his season?
No, I don't grade your season 1 to 10, 10 being good. No, what? No, but I think how did it feel overall when you came back to a thing like experientially, right? When this thing had been taken away, what is the feeling you leave the 2021 season with? What is that overwhelming feeling as opposed to like the results are the results? It doesn't really matter. But what is the feeling that you leave the season with?
And I don't know if this is a case of like the fact that I've been playing this game for a long time, but I just, whether it has to do with the fact that the racing was kind of quote unquote taken from us, and then we got it back, or it was the fact that, it's just like any season of, I've been doing this for a long time and have all these relationships and friends and what we consider like our cyclocross family out there, right? So, you show up, you don't see these folks maybe but a handful of times throughout the summer if you happen to, cross paths at different events. But when it's cross season, you see them consistently. You see them, Saturday and Sunday, and maybe on Friday when you're pre-riding, and then you're going to see them next weekend, So, and those are, they're not always like deep, meaningful conversations, but they're relationships that are valuable, right? And so, for me, that's what was, I guess, the big takeaway from the season. It's just like those hugs, with your buddies after the race, and like the heated conversations that you get into after you guys get into each other, into the tape and those kind of things, and you work through that, and then you have this bond that you can't create in any other way, so and even just like going to different regions, I was on a team that went to pretty much all the races. I think the only one I didn't make it to was Indianapolis, I believe, was the only one I didn't do. And so if you're more of a regional racer, like you going to Texas and doing Pan Ams down there, like I got to see buddies of mine that I haven't seen in probably 3 years. We see each other on social media, and we give each other a thumbs up and that kind of stuff. But it's different than just like, hey man, how are you? How's your family doing? And just like connecting at that valuable level of like seeing in someone's eyes, like, hey, I truly care about your well-being. So
I think part of this is maybe endemic to who you are of, talking about this. I think you're a tailor-made guest for the gravel lot in a lot of ways, because it like Doug, you sum it up perfectly. Like the results don't matter. Like, let's talk about the experience and your takeaways. So I think from that perspective, I feel like you've probably always been a great guest for this show. But I'm curious if you look at where you are now in your career, mentor, coach, still racing, and you're talking about, asking about people's families and asking about genuinely how people are and creating those connections. How does that compare to 20 years ago, Jake? Like, is the arc flat, or has it ramped up over time of focusing or like changing the scope of, as racing, not that it's less important, but it's less powerful in a driver for you versus that kind of communal aspect of connecting to folks?
Oh, it's changed significantly. I think, I would look back and think that, these folks that I have these amazing relationships with now, you know, that those bonds are just strengthened because of our years competing, you know, and as looking at each other as a competitor for many years, you know. And then I don't know if that's a progression of the sport of like, okay, now this has different meaning, or it's just if it's a progression as a person, as a human, you know. But I do feel like 20 years ago, you know, like lining up at a cross race, I was less concerned about one, we didn't have as much, like we didn't all have families then, you know, we didn't all have
Sure.
things going on. We were all very much in the same boat of like, hey man, I'm here for points and glory, and that's it. And now that's shifted of like, you know, we still want to race and we still want to put it all out there, but at the same time, like, you know, I got a daughter in high school, and she's got some pretty rad stuff going on, and I'm excited to share that with my friends and vice versa. Like hear what they have going on with their families and life. And even like and checking in on people's like on their well-being, like on their mental health, you know, like well, like Ben Frederick, you know, like we raced together in Tacoma a few years ago at nationals, and we had a good battle going, and then, you know, like mechanical happened on his end, and that race panned out in a different way. I would have loved to see how that would have panned out had it not had that happen, but that's racing, right? And then you don't see the guy for 18 months, right? Yeah. And so then, and we see each other at races, but he was racing elite all year, and then, you know, I was racing single speed all year, and then we get to see each other at nationals, and we actually get the race, and he ends up winning that race. And you know, there's nothing but like genuine love for that guy of like, hey, I'm so glad to see him where he is now from where he was in 2018, right? Or 2017, whenever he was coming back from his brain injury and all that stuff. Like,
coming guest. Hint, 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 hint. Oh, I'm serious. Like we got it booked. So
good.
That's a glowing endorsement, Jake.
Plus, you can only print so many champ t-shirts.
Yeah, there's. You can't have a wrap champ, like a full body suit.
This needs to come in a 4X, or all the screen print won't fit. Right?
So this kind of you go through this past year, and you're able to do what you do, and I think that's interesting. And from the perspective of you got to have it again, right? You got to go out and you got to race, you got to do this piece again, you got to be involved in the thing that has been a staple of your life for so long. Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they either found bikes during the pandemic or they re-delved into it because it was a thing that they could get into just themselves, or maybe with a few people outside, and these things kind of did that, and maybe they entered the scene in a new way. For me, it's the opposite. It ruined bikes for me, but whatever. That being said, you are now doing something which I think I really want to talk about, because I think it's so fascinating how you've made a pivot as a person to do something that I didn't know you would do ever. When you told me you were doing this, I was like, all right.
It's not outside the skill set, but it's like we've already listed athlete, coach, business owner, right, mentor. Like there's a lot of hats already.
There are plenty of hats, but you decided to take on something that to my knowledge now, unless you've run something like this previous in your life, doing road racing or something like that, or running or something like that, you decided that you wanted to throw a race. And I am telling you this: you are one Y away from having an inappropriate race name.
Okay.
It's a single letter Y from it being Bighorn Gravel.
Would it be different if it was in Utah? Like, is there like another state that it necessarily wouldn't work in?
Yeah, no, I think I know. Trust me, Utah has lots of babies. It's not an issue. It is definitely, but it's not the big horny gravel. It's the big horn gravel. Where the heck did you like wake up in the middle of the night and be like, I have an idea and this is what I'm going to do? Why did you decide? Where did this come from? This seems like a wild hair that you just had. What's the meaning behind like, I want to throw a race in the valley that I live in?
Well, I think that, I mean, to you, it may seem a little bit contrived. I don't know, like maybe it's like
contrived. It's just like, where'd that come from?
Well, and to me, it just seems obvious. It seems like, hey, you know, I live in this amazing community and we have the roads that I love to go ride and train on and link up these big loops. And, you know, the more I go and do that and I talk to people that live here and see that they're, I wouldn't say like confusion, but like they didn't realize that this road connected to that road. They didn't realize that, oh, I know where that is, but I've never been up there on my bike. You know, oh, I can't believe you rode that all in one go, you know, and those kind of things. And part of that's because, you know, you're training for these big events and you have, you know, something on the agenda, but at the same time, a lot of it's just that adventure aspect that's inside of me, you know, and I'm learning that that's not inside of everybody, you know, or maybe it is, but it's a little bit more like buried down, you know. It's not,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that's an itch that's not getting scratched as much for other folks, and so, you know, I end up during the whole, you know, pandemic, I end up reconnecting, or maybe I guess connecting with a buddy of mine who lives here locally, and he owns a bike shop here in town. And he's like, should I get a gravel bike or not? I have the opportunity to get one. And I'm like, dude, yeah, get one. And here's how you should build it. And
who comes to you of all people and says, should I get a gravel bike? I don't know.
I think that's somebody that's looking for confirmation that
exactly. Like, it's someone that wants to hear the word yes. And say, well, Jake said I should do this.
That's a justification to the budget line.
Yeah, my wife says no, Jake.
Yes.
Jake will give me a good reason.
Yeah. I need one person to be on my team here. Who is it going to be? So he gets a gravel bike. He's like, well, now I have this bike. Where do I go ride it? I need to know, like, how do I use this thing? So, and so we start riding, we start exploring, we start to, you know, spend a lot of time to get to know each other better. And so, you know, he's more of a road rider. He's never done any racing ever. And so, you know, as we get kind of further along and things, he's like, hey, I'm thinking about doing my first race. You know, he came down to Patagonia to Arizona, not Patagonia, like Central America, but
trip.
Right. So we went down to Arizona and rode for a week with a group that we put together down there. And that really kind of got his creative juices flowing on what he wanted to do with this bike. So, you know, then so his first race was Unbound, right? He got into the 200 and he came out and we did Unbound. And then he's like, kind of got the bug a little bit. So, you know, he traveled around, did some other gravel races. He and I both went up to Idaho last year over in the fall, like Memorial Day or Labor Day weekend, and did Rebecca's race up there. And so, you know, the more and part of that was because we had been talking about this thing. We've been like saying, hey, we have some amazing roads. We have some of these amazing routes that we've put together, and we go and just ride. Like, hey, did you know this road goes through? We're just like bouncing maps back and forth to each other, and, you know, going out and just making a Saturday of it. And so he's like, why don't we do this? Like, no one's gonna do it. If we sit here and wait and say, you know, they really should put on a race here in Eagle County, then 5 years from now, we're going to be still saying they should really put on a race here in Eagle County. And it turns out, like, the they is us, you know, like, we should do it. Why don't we do it? Like, if you're going to look around and see who the experts are that know these routes, then, you know, like, it's us. So
we say it in the end of the show every week, decisions and trails are made by those who show up, right? Like, that's what it is. Like, no one's going to make this thing for us. Maybe we should make this thing for us.
Yeah. And so, you know, I think that's really where it stems from, is like opening people's eyes to to what's out there, and sometimes it's right in your backyard. You just didn't know it. Right. So we went and did, we've got our routes. We've got 3 different lengths of routes. We've got the Ram's Horn Escape, which is an 85-mile route, big adventure. It's going to have over 10,000 feet of climbing. You're probably you're probably not going to see more than, like, if we went and rode it tomorrow, we would probably see 5 cars total, so it's just real true, like, backcountry adventure. There's definitely going to be times where if you're on a gravel bike, you're going to wish you were on a mountain bike. If you're on a mountain bike, there's times when you're going to wish you were on a gravel bike. There's definitely not any point where you're going to wish you were on a road bike. So, so it's,
now I appreciate this ride. Okay. I'm totally down with that now.
So, we've got an 85-mile route, we've got a 50-mile route, and then we've got like a gravel curious kind of 20-mile route that is just kind of like getting people introduced to what we're considered this adventure riding. So, and we're calling it Bighorn Gravel. Gravel's in loose air quotes. Like, we don't have gravel roads here. If you think about like what some of the iconic gravel events are, obviously Unbound, those are true gravel roads. If you think about like, the ones in Nebraska for gravel worlds, even Steamboat being as close, like Steamboat's only 70 miles kind of northwest of from here. So it's a completely different valley. It's a completely different geographical makeup, so
totally different Department of Transportation in that area.
Totally.
Paved with different stuff.
And so, they call themselves the Champagne of gravel, and they've got like this champagne gravel, I guess is what they call it. So it's like, it's really nice crushed granite and great roads. That's not what we have here. We have like really rugged Forest Service roads, and so we call it a gravel race. There's really about 3 miles of actual like gravel road. The rest is all just like dirt road with chunky rocks in it, a little bit of single track, and very little pavement. So we actually did a recon ride on the first like third of the course, probably 3 weeks ago. And there were 25 people showed up, and I would say all of them, everybody's from the area. No one came from like too far outside the area to come do the ride. And we did a road that's going to like pretty much after like 3 miles from town. So we're starting in Gypsum, Colorado, riding 3 miles out of town, and you're on this climb, and it takes you into like true backcountry. And 4 people that were on the ride had ever been on that road before. Like, they kind of knew of it because they had
lived there.
What?
And they like lived there, and they lived on that road.
Yeah, and they've driven past it. They've ridden past it. They never really, they kind of recognized the fact that there is a road there, but they didn't know where it went. They didn't know that it came through, And so that just gave us that little bit of confirmation or like approval, like, hey, we're on the right track here. Like, we're opening some people's eyes, much less if you're coming from, outside the area. Like, you're just going to be, people's minds are just going to be blown with this route. Like, the views, the roads, the amount of elevation your lungs are going to be blown as well.
So I'm curious, kind of to build on Doug's question a little bit, is you have tons of experience being on the starting line of events, so you know things that work, things that don't work, and you already said it yourself. Like, building these roads out is an adventure in and of itself, and I kind of gleaned from that the idea of building this race, yes, no one's going to do it, but the people that show up and do it. But I think there's an adventure in doing the thing and putting it on as well. So I think I'm trying to navigate how you internally get from idea, awesome. Everybody has ideas. Everybody has a trail they think that should be built. Everybody has a race that they think that, somebody should put on. Everybody has a change they want to make to their local mountain bike trail or whatever.
Yeah.
But getting from there to Jake's perfect route, Jake's perfect bib numbers, like putting on the race that you would want to be a part of. Where did you start? Like, I think everybody comes at it in a different way. And everybody will attack something like this in a very unique way. But I'm curious, like for you, for your process of probably having a pretty good idea of the destination that you wanted to accomplish.
You've had tons of experience seeing it done right and done wrong.
Yeah. So how do you get from, okay, well, no one else is going to do it but us, so we're doing it, to, okay, this is what it's going to be? And how did you guys, or you, kind of start to square yourself around the challenge that is putting all of the guideposts around this thing?
Well, I think that was the main thing, that whenever we, because we kind of kicked the idea around for a little while, like out on rides and stuff, like, oh, it'd be cool. The route could go through here. We could, loop around this way. And
so John and I ended up with a damn podcast. Like, let me be clear.
Right.
Sure. And it was just like, well, I don't know. I've had those conversations many times over the years, right? And it hasn't necessarily come to fruition. So the more we kind of talked about it, it's like, yeah, I think for whatever reason, I've had this apprehension or this like kind of barrier of entry to the whole idea of it, So the more I realized, it's like, well, the only thing that holds me back is like fear of failure, right? And who am I really failing? So if we try this, let's actually try it. Let's actually go all in on it and not just kind of like, put something kind of underground together and small, and like, let's get some momentum behind it. And the real idea for me, and Mike and I both, anytime I go into a situation, this is maybe some of my mental training, but I like, what's the vision? What's the goal? Like, what are we trying to produce here, or what's this going to provide for us? And for me, it really, I mean, we talked about this on the first time I was on you guys' show, but like, and it's just been so powerful for me, is just like this inspiration and motivation part of things, right? So like, here I am in like 3.0 of inspire and motivate, right? But it's working, and it has an effect, and the outcome is one that I'm proud of. So I'm going to continue to do that, and for me, it's really, I wanted to create something that is like, goes back to essentially what we now call mountain biking, right? Like the root of adventure cycling, right? Like, that's not really a term, like a buzzword that we throw around, is adventure cycling, but that is what it is, right? Like, if you think about back to like mid 80s, late 70s, mid 80s, that's how cycling got its start, or mountain biking got its start, was you take a bike, you modify the hell out of it so you can go and do what you want to do. And the drive was to explore and to go on these adventures, these all-day adventures. And now with like the equipment that we have access to, whether it's a gravel bike, a mountain bike, I mean, they're putting suspension on gravel bikes, and so it makes this like one bike that it can do it all. It can really conquer so much. And I think that to be able to have that equipment and go and explore, then what are the other barriers for folks that don't say yes to this and don't just go do this on their own? And really, you look at like, well, one, it's the route finding, right? Like, let's provide them with the route of like, okay, I'm not going to get lost because I know it's going to be somewhat marked. I'm going to have the course loaded into my Wahoo or whatever, and that's going to be done for me. So I know that this road goes through. I know it's not closed or private. And then two is I mean, we're on very remote roads, so like nutrition, like how am I going to have to bring a water filter to get water refill, or do I have to bring all the food and water that I'm going to need for the whole day? Well, that's the idea for the event, is like, all right, well, let's provide that element. Let's provide some medical backup in case something goes sideways. Let's provide nutrition for folks in strategic areas so they can be out there all day and explore this amazing place that we get to call home.
It's lowering that kind of barrier to entry to some extent.
I like the way that you put that, Jake. It's to me, it's like removing excuses almost, of like, well, if somebody did it, I'd go do it. But there's this, or I don't know if it goes through, or that was closed last week, or I can't carry all of these things, or I need to do this, or I have like whatever. It's removing potential ways that people can self-select themselves out of participation.
Yeah. Well, and it's participation, but it's also like, it's that comfort zone, that we all live in, and we all kind of feel warm and fuzzy about, right? And like, oh, all right, I like you said, John, it's like all those excuses of why I can't say yes are gone, because I make the invitation all the time to like, hey, you got a new bike, let's go ride it, let's go do this.
Like 7 excuses if you ever ask me that, and they are mostly, I will be crying because you're too strong. That's basically most of them. But if you remove those excuses, right, that's what Jake's trying to do here.
Right. And I remember back to something you said on I forget if it was the first time we recorded. We broke that into 2 episodes, but you're talking about the comfort zone of being inside your safe zone, but that's a flexible document where you can go push up against those walls. And I think if you start with somebody in their comfort zone, they're a lot more apt to push against some of those flexible walls to say like, okay, I can do 20 miles if it's, if I have to take 3 breaks and it's going to take me 6 hours, 20 miles on a bike, that'll be an epic day for me. Like just thinking about in terms of my food's covered, somebody there is going to help me if I show up looking, well, like you did in your documentary. Not great.
Not doing your best.
Pale, tired, bags under the eyes. Like there's going to be somebody there that can help that person or help them bail out. So like giving those sort of things to where like go in with the best of intentions and see what happens. Like that to me is like, you want to like throw buzzwords around like the spirit of gravel. That to me is why that facet of the hobby, this thing that we like to do, really started to sparkle, is that it stripped away all of the additional nonsense around
the artifice,
like like the structured bike events and needing a license and needing a number and feeling technology lust or whatever like fears that people can have for signing up for a bike race, air quotes. And it's getting to, let's just go have a fun day on the bike. And that reminds me of when I was 8 years old. Even if it was going 8 miles, that felt like an epic day.
And someone at the end is going to have popsicles for you, right? Like,
that's a good idea. I need to write that down.
But like that's the thing, right? Like you're just writing it down. I can see. But like this is the thing, right? It is stretching yourself. It's not about like always about getting a thing. It's about learning something about yourself. But to know that you have bumpers and that you have support is, I think, a big piece of that. And I love that you're approaching that like, no, I want people to explore these roads that I train on, but I'm going to give you this like nice little hammock that you can sit in.
And it changes. We talked about it. I think it was with Tara, but we talked about this idea that cycling needs to get out from under this whole idea that it is put yourself on a bike and make yourself as uncomfortable as humanly possible and just beat the shit out of yourself. Like, yes, climbing 10,000 plus feet in 85 miles is going to beat the crap out of you. Like that's just part of the experience. But for that person that maybe is doing 20 miles where that is a big day and then they go sleep the rest of the day, like that is a flexible document that gives somebody the space to not feel like they need to go like sweat through their eyeballs, and something that's hard for them and could be a breeze for you is still properly calibrated, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think that you're right. I think there's anytime you put the word race on it, some people are gonna opt out, right? And I think that's the interesting kind of something I've been navigating recently is just like talking with people, talking them through it, talking them off the cliff, like, hey, you're going to be fine. Yes, it's a race, but you're not out of your league here, right? Like it's as much of a race as like Boston Marathon is a race, right? So yes, for there are a handful of folks, they're racing to win. They're racing to win a prize. They're racing for victory or glory. For 99.9% of the rest of the field, they're in it for a personal challenge, and some of that's a time challenge. Some of that's just, can I do this? Can I compete it or complete it? Right. And that's exactly what we're looking at with this. And that's what I love about the gravel community, is that it is extremely inclusive, right? Like and that was one of the main things that we wanted to create with this event, is like have something for everyone, because it's going to be a hard day. Like you said, it's like 85 miles doesn't seem like that long to some people. That's a real long way to go. But when you add in the amount of vert that we're talking about on the terrain we're talking about, that's a big day. That's a lot to bite off.
Maybe next year, if you'll babysit.
Definitely, we can make that work.
Right, so he's going to babysit. We just signed out about this.
Yeah. But then there's also the 50 miler, right? Which is still, it's going to have 6,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah.
50 miles. It's going to be a lot of amazing dirt roads, some single track. And I think that, we did a recon ride last weekend, and we had almost 40 people show up for that one. And, that was to me, like that, I described that portion of the course as the true like gem of the route, right? So both the 85 mile and the 50 mile both use this section of the course. It's from the last aid station to the finish. And, we get on some single track. We have a really tough climb in there. It's not long, but it's steep. Most people, especially at where it's going to come in the course, they're going to walk that. Some people will be able to ride it, but if you walk it, it's 8 minutes, it's not like, and if you ride it, it's 4.5 minutes, right? So it's not like you're giving up a super significant amount of time, right? Like it's, and then you get to the top and you get this amazing ride into the finish. It's 8.5 miles from there to the finish. It's 200 feet of climbing to go. And it's this wide, fast road. And, I think that that's the portion to me that people are going to look back at and say, wow, I'm proud of myself for completing that. I'm proud of myself for pushing through that and getting to the top of that climb. And I wouldn't have done that on my own, right? There's no way I would have pushed myself that way or even chose that route, to ride single track for some people is completely out of their comfort zone. Yeah. Especially if you think about doing it on a drop bar bike, like that's just like, well, this bike isn't supposed to go on single track. So
yeah, it's a bike. It wants to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for, I'm thinking through the events that I've done. There's something to be said for that, the reflectivity. I think that what you're talking about is something that is a lasting memory for me with Barry-Roubaix, coming from gravel roads outside of town, coming into downtown Hastings. And you get the opportunity to know that your elevation is done. It's like the last 2.5 miles is the cruise into town. And you have this opportunity, whether it's the short route, the medium route, the long route, the 100-miler, that you have this opportunity for that reflection. And like, for me, it was such a strong memory because, I'm thinking about, that was my first long ride after taking care of my wife through a broken leg, and just thinking about her through that thing, and thinking about, hitting my goal time and being super proud of this selfish accomplishment that I did. But then, sitting in the park and pulling out my phone, and she sends me a video and tops me. And that was the first steps that she had taken since she had broken her leg like 9 months before. But it's like having that time of, if you have a call it a mountaintop finish or something like that, you do this really hard thing and then it's done. So your lasting memory of that experience is, oh my God, I'm pinned.
Yeah.
Whereas that is, I just did something really hard, and now I have, whether it's plowing into the finish or just cruising into the finish, you have that moment of thinking about what you've done and thinking about the adventure that you had that day, and thinking about the trials, tribulations that are going to happen. And even if it's a 20-mile ride or 50 or 85, there's still enough time in there where you're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. probably multiples of both. But like thinking about through all of those and just kind of like we were saying earlier, like acknowledging the day that you've had. I think that's something that a lot of race directors kind of miss, that they want to stuff as much as possible into an event, and they're not giving that space for personal reflection before you go into whatever the party atmosphere or the concert or the midway or whatever thing that you're getting ready to finish. There's not that like super tight personal moment to come into somewhere by yourself and have that time to think about what you just did.
Yeah. Well, and I've definitely, I've done plenty of races where that is the case, whether you don't have that opportunity, and that opportunity comes, that opportunity comes on the drive home or a week later or months later, right? And you realize like, oh, that was super rad, and now I want to go do it again, or I want to do something similar. But that like Leadville 100 is that way. Like you get to the top of Carter Summit, and you're not completely done with the ride. You still got some mileage to do, and you still got kind of a grind climb up this nasty dirt road. But you get to that point, and you're gonna make it. You're gonna get to the finish, and you get this amazing view, and you get a nice long downhill. And I mean, that wasn't 100% in the design whenever we came up with it, because we were just kind of more limited with the route that we wanted to do. But we did want to try to avoid as much pavement as we could, and that road brings you right into, within 3 miles of the finish. And I'm really psyched with the route, and really psyched with the feedback that we've gotten so far from the people that have come out and ridden with us on portions of it. So, and just the amount of support that we've gotten from our partnerships, that we've put together. So, I mean, we've pitched this to, between Mike, my buddy, who's helped me put this whole thing together. He has been in the Valley for many years, but he's also owns a couple bike shops here in the area. So his connections, my connections, and it really feels good to be able to pitch something like this to your partners, sponsors that you've been working with for many years, and then to pretty much without even looking at the proposal, just say, yes, we're in.
Yeah.
So, and I know that's not always the case. I know, again, like you said earlier, like acknowledging the privilege that we have, but some of this privilege, in this case, it's been a career's worth, right? Like I've worked hard for these relationships, and so it feels good to have that kind of support on this side of the tape as well. As far as being someone that's putting on an event as opposed to someone that's racing in an event.
And I think it's interesting because you really have community support, right? It's not just like, yes, you have the people that have worked with Jake and the people that work with Mike and all that sort of stuff. You have those wells to go to. Yeah, I'm here all evening. But you also
Hammer bear.
But you are working with community support, and I think it says a lot that you get 65 people over 2 training races who are locals, and they were on recon rides, right? And yeah, that's some training recons, getting out there and seeing it. But I saw a video, and it is quite literally almost every single type of bike. Like it's not like I did not see a beach cruiser and I did not see a downhill rig, but I saw everything else in between.
Just throws out a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, someone do this on a beach cruiser. But it is good to see that there is that level of local engagement, because I think when you have it seems like you're setting the sights in a bigger place, but you're having people who are local adopt this and learn about their own space. And I think that's really, really helpful, because you're not just, a lot of people say, I'm going to build this thing and we're going to bring all these people to our city and show them how awesome this city is. Poof. It has no connection, no relationship to the community it's in. And that is absolutely not this. And it is really cool to see people who've lived there and been there and ridden these roads say, this is a thing that we want to do for our community and involve our community from a participatory space, from a sponsorship space, and from a longevity space.
Well, I think even further than that, it's digging a little bit further into your connections, Jake. It's connecting people to this event, because you can spend $100,000 putting on the best midway, the best bib numbers, give away jerseys to everybody that registers. But if you don't tell anybody about it, if you don't talk about it, if you don't put it out into the public and work with people in the community to communicate about it, no one's going to sign up. So I think that's another piece of this that we really wanted to dig into is first off, the obvious question is how do people go sign up? But the second piece of this is I want to give you kind of the floor to talk about this awesome promotion that you're doing for getting people to sign up, as if hearing us talk about it, not so much Doug and I, because we're just asking dumb questions, and Jake is basically making this thing sound amazing to do.
That's how it always works. Every time it's on the damn show.
Jake is here, and we're also here. Like, Jake is the show, and we're just kind of there. But I think the interaction that you're having with the kind of larger cycling media, and being able to put something more attractive together for folks to make that, one, to make it easy to register, but two, to give people an incentive to go sign up and actually make it worthwhile. So I think there's doing the work of putting on a great event. There's doing the work of putting together great routes. But then there's this last piece where I think a lot of people struggle is you got to go tell people, you got to go market, you got to go hustle. So let's talk a little bit about this. So first off, let's talk about how do people go register so folks can go get registered for it.
Sure. Well, so real quick on kind of circling back on what you were just talking about with the community support, I think that's been one of the big things that has been impressive to me is like, I'm putting this on and I feel like, of course, this is something that appeals to me and I hope it appeals to a lot of other people. The amount of gratitude that I've heard from people of like just coming up to me like after these rides and just saying, hey, thanks for doing this, is not what I would have expected, like
is it inspiring and motivating?
It is. Nice job.
Just check.
So, I think that's what's interesting to me is like, oh, this is something, we're on a vein here, like this is something that people have been wanting. And
they've been asking themselves on their rides, someone should do a damn gravel race around here.
Right. Yeah. And then the start and finish is in the town of Gypsum, and they're one of the title sponsors, and they have been amazing. They are so excited to bring this event to their town, and they've been nothing but supportive. And then the other title sponsor is Alpine Bank, and it's a community bank, right? Like it's a regional bank that is in our area, and I bank there and I have my business account is there as well, but I don't know them, like the folks that we're dealing with on this whole event. Like we're not talking to the teller that I know, like Jody, who's super helpful and rad, but
Jody does not have the pull up the chain to like sort you out with sponsorship. Yeah.
Right. So, but they're supporting the community, right? And that, I don't know, to me that's just humbling, I guess, on our end. So but yeah, so what we've got going with this amazing promotion that is just getting ready to drop is like you were mentioning, John, we got to get the word out. This is a first year event. I think that whenever we are looking at what makes a great event, number one, it's the course, right? And that we've got that nailed. Like we've got an amazing course, whether you sign up for the Ram's Horn Escape, the Little Bighorn, or the Gravel Curious, you're going to be impressed with where you are and doing something that's pretty amazing. And then number two is the after party, right? Like the vibe, right? So we're going to have food trucks, we're going to have beer, we're going to have live music, all the things that John was just talking about of like, how can we make this inclusive and how can we make this a family friendly event with the town of Gypsum they're giving us the rec center, access to the rec center. So you've got showers, you got bathrooms, if you've got little ones. What'd you say?
That in and of itself is such an amazing get, and that's so generous of them.
There's a 3-on-3 basketball tournament with finishers. That's a whole brackets. It's a whole thing.
And they've got an indoor pool, and so if your significant other wants to go race, and you are stuck supporting, right? And I've been in this place. Usually it's shoes on the other foot. Like my wife is there and she's supporting me, and she brings Tatum with, and okay, well, so see you in 5 hours, right? So what are we gonna do? Well, here's a rec center, here's a pool. So we got you. Go get set up. There's all kinds of fun stuff outside. There's fun stuff inside. We're gonna have kids races. We're gonna have at the expo. We're gonna have Strider bike race and Jumpy Castle and all these amazing things. So I feel like we're checking that box, right? We got the race, the course, we got the post race and the expo. And so, the big thing is, how do we get the word out about it? And especially for a first year event, we launched this thing in right around the first of the year. At that point, a lot of folks that are racing gravel this year have already made their calendar, right? So, unless you're a local person, it's yeah, I'm free that weekend, let's go do it. You got to travel to, of all places, Vail, Colorado, which is not necessarily a hard ask, right? When you pitch that.
Yeah. It's not super easy to get to, but it's not a hard ask to be like, do you want to go to Vail? No. Yeah, I definitely want to go to Vail.
Yes. Right. So with this contest that we're putting together, essentially it's an all-inclusive package, right? So it's for all you have to do is sign up for the event. Your name gets put in a hat. If you're already signed up, your name gets put in the hat, and we'll give you your refund back on your entry fee if you win. So you win an entry for you, an entry for your favorite training partner, whoever that happens to be. The Park Hyatt in Vail, in Vail Village, which is about a 40-minute drive from where the race start finish is, has given rooms for the trip. So I think it's for 2 nights coming in. So if you come in for the races on Sunday, you come in Saturday night, you're here for the race on Sunday, and you stay the night on Sunday night and you leave on Monday. We've got food voucher at 4-star, very, very fancy restaurant here in town called Sweet Basil. Amazing food, white tablecloth dining. You're not going to be disappointed with that. You might be underdressed, but you might want to bring
wear spandex, please.
Covered in dirt.
The shower before you go.
Jump in the pool after.
Yeah.
Get all dirt in the pool, and then go.
And we've got even the rental cars covered, right? So we've got a partnership with the rental company here out by the airport. So pretty much all you need to do is get to Vail, and we've got everything from there. We've got your lodging, your food, your entry fee, and your transportation sorted out.
That's excellent.
So adding to that, since this whole hashtag van life is a thing, we just have a new partner who came on board last week, local van outfitter, RV sales, called Dave and Matt's Vans, and they're headquartered out of Gypsum, Colorado. So for that kind of glamping experience, the town of Gypsum has given us an area that's for the van life folks, right? So when you go and sign up, one of the questions there when you sign up is, do you need camping or not? If you say yes, then camping's free. The town of Gypsum has given us that for free. So you will just assign you a spot, and you're right at the start finish. So you roll in, you've got your van, and that's your hotel for the weekend. So with Dave and Matt's Vans, they're giving us a van for the weekend, right? So that's the other giveaway, right? So you can go with the hotel giveaway at the Park Hyatt. Super swanky experience for the weekend.
You feel bougie?
Or it's very bougie. Or you could go with the glamping experience, which is in Dave and Matt's van, right at the start finish. Same idea. You're going to show up. We've got a rental car covered. We've got your entries covered. We'll have food for you. Just give us your shopping list. We'll take care of that. It'll be in the van for you, ready to go. And all you got to do is show up and have the experience.
Are Dave and Matt there? Is the question. Are they there?
Matt will be there for sure. I'm not sure about Dave.
Dave and Matt are private chefs in this van.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Right.
It's just, look, I am not
feeding you goldfish crackers
one by one with chopsticks. I'm not the promotions team for this event, so anything I say cannot be held against Jake Wells or Mark. They are not the ones who are responsible for that. That is that's a thing that I have not heard anyone ever do.
What does it
So
do?
cool.
What does it do? It goes back to what we were just talking about 5 minutes ago of removing reasons, removing barriers from the complexity. Like if you are coming from out of town, like if we were to go there, get there,
Right.
get you and your bike there. The rest of it is gonna be handled. And if you're coming in from a couple hours, like you have a great place to stay, choose your own adventure. Like it's that to me is going above and beyond. Like there's a lot of romance behind wanting to share your local training roads and share part of yourself with the world, share your experiences, share the actual topography with the world, trying to curate something that actually means something. Building the community into the equation helps make the whole thing more sustainable and actually makes it more attractive to folks. But now, to me, that's going a step further and probably raising the bar for a lot of folks that are shaking their heads now of damn, I've been putting on a race for 10 years and I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Now I have to do that because now, to me, that's one of those things that forever changes the dynamic of expectation for events that are more aimed at getting people into gravel. Unbound is not, it's not going to be your
They're the
dip in the
800
toe.
grill.
Yeah, they're
gonna
not,
do
but it's
whatever
not
they
the dip your toe in the water event of I've heard of this gravel thing. Is it something that's not what this is? They don't they literally name it Gravel Curious. Removing all possible barriers. I love that. I don't know why I'm blown away by the thoughtfulness of all of this because it's your event, but still, kudos.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and again, it goes back to putting out that vision, and I think Mike and I were here at my studio kind of brainstorming ideas, and we were working through stuff, and I said, what would be really cool, because we have this van life camping thing right there on the premise, would be really cool to have a van where you could offer that as a all-inclusive experience. But we didn't have a partner at the time. We didn't have a van partnership, an adventure van sponsor. And then, these guys who I knew of, I don't know anybody there at the company. I don't know Dave or Matt. And I had kind of reached out to a few folks that were affiliated with the brand or with the company. And then ultimately I just thought, okay, well, it's going to be year 2, right? That's in the bigger vision. And it's going to be year 2 or 3. So
that's a reasonable space to live in.
Yeah. I mean, we've got a lot of things, cooking here. So let's make it, let's just do these things really well. And then we can add those other things. It's not going to make or break the event if we don't have a van experience, And then these guys reached out. We got an email and was hey, we heard you're putting on an event in our backyard and we want to be involved. And so we had this kind of teed up and I think it goes back to just that, that vision of it, what do you want it to look like, and I think you don't get to choose when it shows up, but you do get to say, you do get to choose whether you say yes or no to it.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said for it. And I'm thinking about the events that I've done, having the camping right next to the start finish. It changes the dynamic of the race because then it does make it connect more with the idea of adventure cycling. Because it's normally the camping is a half mile away from the starting line and there's other stuff going on and you're kind of hidden away. Whereas that, like, it makes it central to the experience.
I've been looking up their vans. You can rent them. It's pretty cool. I'm just looking at if there you can rent them.
Doug's planning first family vacation with baby.
Yeah, well, but I mean, I gotta get to Vail first to do that. But
whatever,
like legit, whatever.
Details.
It's cool. Fly in and see y'all.
So you said you said the word vision, and you've already kind of intimated about year 2, year 3. So I want to kind of touch on this, and then obviously get to our final point, final question of the day. But like, what is this? Like, maybe not so much like, we don't need you to share what's under the curtain of like what's coming in the future, because we want, be able to release that on your terms. But like, what is your vision for this long term? Like, what do you want this to be?
I want this to be a pillar of the community. I want it to be something that that the community is proud of.
When you say the community, do you mean the gypsum community or the larger, like, as we talk about the bike community?
Air quotes.
I think you could say both. I think I want it to be something that people, the community's proud of locally, like the Eagle County community. It's like, hey, we have this cool thing in our boundaries here, and you should come check it out. You should come do it. I think you'd be surprised or impressed of what we've got going on here. But then at the same time, I think the gravel community, the cycling community, is like, oh, this is something that's out there, and that's cool. That's something that I think as a community we can be proud of as well. And I think that there's a handful of those events out there. I think that if you think about them, that even though you maybe you've done it as a competitor, or maybe you haven't, maybe you just heard of it, but you say, wow, that's really cool. Like Barry-Roubaix comes to mind. I've never done that race, but I'm proud of it. I think it's a great race that showcases all these amazing things about cycling.
Everything that you're saying about wanting to get the community involved was my primary takeaway, that you have neighbors that clearly have nothing to do with bikes out handing out water at mile 50. It happens in the town square. You have all of the restaurants basically shut down the night before, only serving, bike people that are coming into town. It was such an eye-opening event for me to go to, and I cannot recommend it highly enough for that specific reason, because it shows you what bikes are capable of doing with a community involved.
Did you lose us, Jake?
No.
Okay, just checking. Because dead air.
I didn't know if you were waiting on something from me.
No, I think you're patterning. But I think you're patterning your event to have that kind of like basic.
It's bigger than bikes.
Yeah,
it's bigger than bikes. It's bigger than gypsum. It's all of these things combined. It's showing off the city. It's showing off the kind of chamber of commerce of the area. It's showing off your roads, but it's also giving the whole area an exposure to your cycling world. And it's just blending the two things that are kind of the place you live and the thing that you love, just putting them together, but also sharing it on a much broader scale. I think it's very open and honest of like basically you and Mike. Yeah. Like you and Mike sharing yourselves with the world. I think it's a great thing to put into the world.
That feels good. I appreciate that, because I feel like it's easy when you're in it, it's easy to be kind of immersed in it. Like, this is going to be so rad, and I think we're doing this for all the right reasons. And then it's good to hear that confirmation, that, and again, like, I've got a ton of experience on what these events that I've gone to and been able to participate in, and been able to look at that and say, oh, this is what they did there. That was really, I really appreciated or enjoyed as the athlete. And these are the things that maybe didn't go so well, but so we want to try to avoid those things. But just because I like it doesn't mean everybody's going to like it, right? And I don't expect that everybody's going to love this event. There's going to be probably some people that live in the community like, hey, what are these people doing? Out riding bikes on these roads that I love to go and ride my dust buggy on the weekends. But I think there's ways to extend that olive branch, and I think that Steamboat's done an amazing job with it in their community of like these farm roads that we have the ability to go and ride, and I think that we definitely going to take a page out of their book and do whatever we can to make it so that the community feels like this is an asset to them, and that's town of Gypsum folks, that's town of Eagle folks, and that's all of Eagle County, and then hopefully state of Colorado.
Well, it's just it's a growth mindset about thinking about how you get people involved in other things, and and not to get super far afield here, but hey, global warming, the ski industry is going to struggle. This is definitely a problem. We started hearing about all these things. You've got to think about how to diversify the assets that you have and how to get people engaged in the communities that you have when there aren't the things that have been there for however many years, 60, 70 years, you got to think about it a little bit larger.
When you get municipal involvement like this, and you get that level of buy-in, it immediately makes it more sustainable.
Yep.
It's not just two people putting on an event anymore. It's that's the impetus to start it, but you eventually, year 2, year 5, you have 5, 10, 20 people that are part of bringing this thing into the world, and that makes it able to last and makes it able to continue to grow and to continue to roll, because it's a destination on everyone's calendar for that specific time of the year.
Yeah.
I think those things become really important from that Chamber of Commerce perspective of this is a weekend that we have dedicated as a city to this thing.
I know that it is Memorial Day weekend approaching here. Oh, crap. Yeah, it really is, because we're releasing this. It is Memorial Day weekend here in Cincinnati this coming weekend.
Podcast.
And you know what that means? It's Taste of Cincinnati. Yes. They're going to shut down streets and be really annoying. And people are going to park all of my bike share bikes in places I don't want them. And I'm going to have to go recover them. But it's Taste of Cincinnati. It happens on Memorial Day weekend every year, right? That is one of those things, and it starts to pattern that. Well, I'm stoked that you're doing this. This is really cool. It's neat to see you branching out and doing something that's not it's not out of character for you, but it's just different. It's like an evolution of Jake's space.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's giving everybody else a chance to see more of Jake.
Yeah.
You can listen to him on our podcast
or the Forum podcast.
Right. And you do a great job of making yourself available on that. But I think it's sharing of yourself. It's putting art out into the world that other people can be a part of. I think that's a great contribution to your space.
That feels good. That's why I love coming on here. You guys always make me feel so good.
You this is a good vibes location. We are here for the good vibes only. We do not bring. Sometimes we bring the shitty vibes.
We'll call it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess you're right. Now thinking back, there were some tears on episode 1.
Yeah, but they were from a place of you accessing yourself. That was not.
I feel like they were cathartic tears.
Yeah, they were good. They were good.
You're right. But that you guys make it so that you can just be raw and expose yourself on here, and I think that's not actually.
Hey, we now have video. There's none of that. No exposing yourself anywhere. There's no video.
And
Jake.
We're now in the same room.
It's a whole weird now. Now it's gotten weird. Now it's gotten weird.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But no, I appreciate the platform, you guys. As always, I love connecting with you both, and just giving me this platform to be able to share my stoke about this event and about bikes in general, and the community that we all love.
If you're stoked on it, we're stoked on it. That's pretty much a guarantee.
Yeah. So I will put links in the show notes to the registration page for Bighorn Gravel. I'm not going to use your name. I think you just used that as an opportunity to say it. I think it was performative on Doug's part.
It's totally performative.
Not really at all about calling it out. Anyway, links in the show notes. I'm also going to continue to put the link in the show notes for Justin Baylogs. documentary about, at the time, DKXL, which is now Unbound XL. So go check it out, connect with it, watch Jake in his natural habitat.
But his terrarium,
yeah.
that is.
Unknown Country, right?
Yeah.
That was that's how we
Unknown
came up with
Country.
that name.
So you hang out for a second, and we're gonna wrap up the show. So as we wrap up today, this is really one more chance to just say thank you guys so much. So much is happening in both of our lives, and this has been a pillar for so long that we can just continue to go back to the well and talk to amazing people and just like be rejuvenated every time we talk. Like all the other stuff that goes on with the podcast feels like work at times, but this always hits the right note.
100%.
So thank you guys for making that possible. Hopefully we're living up to the standard that you guys expect. And thank you for making this whole thing so successful, because we wouldn't keep making it if a lot of people weren't downloading it. So without y'all, we couldn't continue to bring this thing to you. So in addition to supporting the show, we encourage you, as we do every week, to hit up our partners to assist in bringing TGL to you every other week. So we ask you to show them some love, buy their things, buy their stuff, or just visit the website, spend some time there, check out who they are, and find out why these companies are awesome, because they're partners that have basically become our family.
Absolutely. The first one this week is Be Free Ride Bikes, as always, doing custom apparel for you, your friends, your dog. Well, I don't know if they do dog stuff, but maybe they do dog spandex. We can figure it work. I bet you they can figure it out. They can definitely cut something that might fit your dog. But head on over to bfrbcycling.com and take a look at all the things they have. They've got some kit you can order off the top, but it really, custom cycling apparel is where they shine. Chamois choices, fabric choices, all the things you potentially need to dial it in just for you, your team, your friends, whatever you're trying to do. bfrbcycling.com and figure out what you want to make a reality in your cycling clothing world. I like that. Yeah, it's my new tagline.
Also follow the link in the show notes and head to grunpobrothers.com now and get your hands on premium hand roasted coffee that supports great causes both in cycling and the greater world. Hit up the website. This is our plea. Like, go to the website, spend some time not only reading through the origin of the beans and the sourcing of the beans and how they're roasted, but also what a portion of the proceeds from that specific product goes to supporting. And then you can choose whether or not you want to pick by the type of coffee that you're going to drink or the cause that you want to support. Because Dan and everybody over at Grunpo Brothers is genuinely putting their money where their mouth is and giving back to these things that they care about and that they want to see kind of happen in the world. So grunpobrothers.com now. And don't forget that if you guys sign up for the subscription service, you will earn a free bag of coffee, because the only thing better than coffee is what, Doug?
Free coffee. That's correct. So
the Champ blend over there as well on Grunpo Brothers.
That is true. That is true. This is how we tie it in with the people we have.
I'm going to recommend that one, but I'm a little biased.
Dan knows
totally
what's up.
Shameless. Like, we just had this whole like bonding thing where we gave each other compliments. And now
he's like, buy my coffee.
Sorry, I had to jump in there, but it does go to a great cause.
Yeah, it does. It does go to a great cause. Yeah, absolutely. Also, no podcast would be complete without mention of our awesome friends over at Hand Up Gloves. Hand Up Gloves been with us since the start. I was just messaging Troy and sending him photos from our recording, and he was like, "Are you texting me while you're recording?" I was like, yes, I am.
Yes, Dad.
Yes, I am. So head on over to Hand Up Gloves. They have an amazing, awesome lineup of amazing stuff. I bought a whole bunch of new hats because I've had, like, my Hand Up hats have just gotten so beat because I wear them nonstop.
Well, we're in your house right now and you're wearing a hat.
I wear a hat.
It's a lot.
Look at my childhood photos and I wear a hat for forever. So my Hand Up hats are part of my uniform.
Probably changed how your
head's shaped.
Skull is shaped.
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible. I think it was formed by the time I started wearing hats. I don't know. But at any rate, you want cool hats? Hand Up's got a bunch of them. And if you want cool gloves, and that's gloves for snow sports, even though it may not be this season unless you're in the Southern Hemisphere. Golf, if you're playing golf right now and that's the thing you're doing and you bike, get golf gloves from them. They have awesome golf gloves. I've been like going out to the range a little bit and hitting with the family. Ellen's family plays a lot of golf. They're really awesome. And I think they're pretty cool because they say things on the hands like beer me, which is pretty much how I play golf. And awesome cycling gloves and apparel of wild origin. You can do all sorts of cool stuff to show your personality, whatever sport you're doing. Hand Up is amazing. Go visit them. Click the link in the show notes. And then at checkout, enter code hand up. Hand up $. That makes no sense. That makes 0
It's
sense.
been the same for like 4 years.
Enter the code Pebble $. So Pebbles, but the S is a $, to make sure that you save 10% off everything in store.
Is it because we switched up ad reads today?
Yeah, it's because we did it backwards.
Yeah.
That's okay. This is how we keep it fresh.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, as Doug said in the intro, this is kind of the last opportunity to say thank you guys so much to every Pebble, old, new. We love hearing from all of you guys, and we cannot do this without your continued support. So make sure to visit, subscribe, the social feeds, hit up all of those things at the Gravel-Lot. Head to thegravel-lot.com. Find all the latest episodes from the Gravel-Lot podcast, as well as Girls Moving Mountains, Pink, Blue, White, Bike Shop Show. There's tons of content on there. It's all right on the main page now, so you don't even need to really shop to find it. Go listen to whatever episode you want. Use the little search bar in the upper right-hand corner. Find whoever you want to talk about. Stay in touch. Stay up to date. Send us your comments, your questions, your concerns. Use the contact page on the website form. Send us a message on whatever form of social
Smoke
media.
signal, whatever works.
Yeah, carrier pigeon. What was the one that we were using for a while? Was it carrier pigeon?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Snakes with a note tied around them.
Nope, no snakes. Get these snakes off this plane.
Off this plane.
Or you can become head to the website and learn how to become a Patreon supporter as well, because that is truly, as Doug said, the lifeblood of keeping this thing moving. And don't forget to join the YouTube. Subscribe to that so you can actually watch the video if you want to watch the video and see our beautiful faces, mostly Jake's beautiful face. And then again, Doug and I are also here. Or just continue to subscribe to the podcast, because that's where we started. That's what we're always going to continue to make. So, man, that's all.
That's a lot of places.
It's a lot of places.
Thanks to
We're easy
water.
to find.
Yeah, we're pretty easy to find.
Yeah.
You
can Google the Gravel-Lot, and we're like the first 3 pages of results.
That's what I'm talking about.
Suck at SEO.
Good SEO, John. John is on the SEO. Our new intro, or not new, but our repeated intro and outro music is from Water. Go check him out. We've got a awesome link to him. He's got new stuff coming out all the time. Surfing up a storm and just enjoying his life. So check him out. Yeah, you got it. That's how it works. So, Jake, final thoughts for this evening. What would you want the Pebbles to take home from our conversation today? Aside from like, come do my race.
click the link. Yeah.
Click the link in the show notes. Like go to Jake's race. We all want you to go to Jake's race.
BighornGravel.com.
Yes.
No, I think like, it kind of goes back to what we talked about at the end of the first episode that we recorded is, like John said, with the event we're putting on, it's like we're helping you. We're kind of putting training wheels on this thing for you to be able to say yes to something that would normally challenge you or put you out of your comfort zone, and I think that's, really, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, like the why I found myself in this place is like, this is out of my comfort zone. This is not my wheelhouse. Right. So, but I've gotten to the point because I've say yes to these things that come up, and I'm like, yeah, that is not my comfort zone. And, but I've gotten comfortable stepping into it. Right. That's a training. It's just like doing squats in the gym, right? Like it's something that I've trained over the years, and now I'm comfortable there, or I'm comfortable being uncomfortable. Right. So, and you got to train it. And that's whenever, the opportunity came up, I said, hey, let's put this event on. I said, yes. Right. And that's what the idea of the event is for, is for you to not be able to say no, like for you to say, there's no reason for me to say no to this. I'm going to go do it, even though it's completely out of my wheelhouse. So, I think that's the big takeaway is get comfortable about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations.
But there's a lot of growth in that space.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think that's where we learn the most about ourselves and who we are and areas that we can improve.
And if you're
Right,
gonna
like
do it where somebody's giving you rest stops. They're giving you a well-marked
Yeah, so-
route that's protecting you. Have that backstop.
Yeah. It's cool to like go bungee jumping before you go base jumping. Like get comfortable with launching yourself off the mountain before you're like ready to do it with a skull suit.
Yeah.
So I love that.
So-
That's great. Jake, dude, this has been so awesome to just get to spend some time, and we spent like a ton of time in the green room talking life stuff. So it's been good to like get to spend some time catching up. We got to see you in Cincinnati this year, but we didn't really get to like sit down and spend time because we were all busy doing stuff. But this has been awesome. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to be with us here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always great to connect with you guys. Like you said, it was fun to connect with you both before the show, and you both have some really cool stuff coming up. So I'm really excited to keep tabs.
We're excited to keep tabs on what you got going on and with Bighorn Gravel, bighorngravel.com. Everybody check it out. Go give Jake a follow on all the socials, and Bighorn Gravel's been putting a bunch of social stuff out there as well. So go check all that out. It looks like a good time. I wish we could be there, but there are other predicating situations. But maybe next year, since you have offered babysitting. So
Yeah, well, we got you covered on that. So
okay, good. Well, then we'll just get Tatum to babysit, right? That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah. Well,
pay.
Okay.
He's like volunteering. Like, sure.
She's in. I don't know.
I'm not in charge of that, but okay.
Awesome. Well, Jake, thanks for being here and spending the time. As always good to see you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you both.
That's all for this week, Pebbles. So be sure to subscribe, follow, and engage because, as we say each and every week, decisions and trails are made by those who show up. So if we don't see you on the trails this week, we'll see you next time. Bye, John.
Bye, Doug.